I wish I didn't have to say this. Our congressman told things that are not accurate when he went to Delaney Hall. He said that the conditions are better than a nursing home. He said that the food was good. He said it was clean. And I just think that that defies logic, defies common sense. And so Alice is here to give us on ground. So thank you so much, Alice.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alice Carcelli. I'm a group leader with Indivisible Atlantic City Empathy United. We are a local chapter of a grassroots organization founded in 2016 with the major goal of preserving our democracy and holding our elected officials accountable. I want to preface this update on Delaney Hall with, I feel this information would be much more valuable coming from members of the impacted community or from organizers that have worked directly with impacted families. I fit into neither one of those categories. I happen to be a community member who visited Delaney Hall several times last week to stand in solidarity with the detainees on hunger strike and to stand in solidarity with our coalition partners, El Pueblo Unido. I'm going to, I apologize for reading to you. I'm going to read an update that was posted by the North Jersey and New York City Democratic Socialists of America in partnership with COSECHA, one of the organizers on the ground at Delaney. On May 22nd, over 300 brave people detained at Delaney Hall, an immigrant detention facility in New Jersey, launched a hunger and labor strike. These courageous strikers, many of them New Yorkers, are urgently protesting the torturous conditions they are experiencing and demanding safety, dignity, and freedom to be with their families. In their 4 open letters to the broader immigrant justice movement, they described the brutal retaliation from the GEO Group, the for-profit operator that enriches itself off the misery of immigrant detention. The reported retaliation includes physical beatings, attempted expedited transfer and removal of organizers, and deprivation of basic hygienic products such as toilet paper. They have affirmed that they are encouraged by the presence of supportive protesters outside of the facility. They ask us to continue to show up in solidarity outside of Delaney Hall and to support them and their families monetarily and share their demands. And they mentioned New York City in this post, but many of the detainees are also from New Jersey, including one of our community members, Nicholas, whose family is being assisted by El Pueblo Unido. The act of refusing to eat subverts the carceral system's power dynamics and is a recognition that the conditions of imprisonment are an attack on detained people's very humanity. Hunger strikes of those behind bars are a time-honored tradition woven throughout liberation struggles within and in support of Palestine, Ireland, South Africa, and beyond. Whether through the denial of due process, of sufficient medical care, of nutritious meals and sanitary conditions, these failings and injustices have fostered and indeed forced solidarity among people whose paths should never have crossed in detention, and whose insistence on their humanity will help pave a path toward abolition for all. Media representations of the protests outside of Delaney Hall often mischaracterize the group of organizations and neighbors who have come together to support the strikers from New Jersey, New York, and beyond. New Jersey State Police, brought in to protect ICE, have responded violently to protesters. They have trapped protesters in tight spaces with barricades and riot shields, a tactic known as kettling, trampled them with horses, removed their protective gear to spray them with tear gas and pepper spray, pushed them into the path of oncoming trucks, slammed them into each other and the ground, and beaten them with batons, specifically aggressively targeting smaller and more femme comrades for physical assault. Numerous right-wing media outlets have also joined to attempt to dox protesters, and government drones hover over the scene, surveilling protesters. Protesters have been blamed for wearing protective gear, helmets to protect themselves from batons, goggles for the pepper spray, face coverings to protect themselves from right-wing doxing, but we know they are doing this in response to the escalating threats they face. So before the meeting, I passed out some information about how we can help the organizers in Delaney Hall. So it's very important that we call Mikey Sherrill. Mikey Sherrill did visit Delaney Hall today and put out a statement that she had like a very brief visit and wasn't allowed to see detainees and wasn't allowed into most parts of the facility. However, I do think it's worth noting that her visit only lasted about 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Representative Menendez was there a few days ago, last week, and he stayed for 17 hours. So I do think that we could be pressuring her to make more of an effort to meet the demands of the hunger strikers. And their demands right now are a meeting with Mikey Sherrill inside the facility to observe conditions and hear their testimonies, the release of medically vulnerable people, including those who are elderly or sick, an end to coercive pressure to sign on deportation or voluntary departure documents, ensure meaningful review of immigration cases and habeas petitions, send doctors to examine everyone in Delaney Units 2A and 2B, these are the units that the hunger strikers are in currently, and freedom for all. So I can offer you my account of what I witnessed and experienced at Delaney Hall. We traveled there, several of us traveled there on Sunday, which was the third day of the hunger strike. It was a very small protest. There were no ICE agents present. There was a lot of tension because the protesters were forming a human chain to block the removal of one of the lead organizers, or who was considered one of the lead organizers of the hunger strike, because he was going to be removed as a punishment. I also visited on Wednesday. On Wednesday evening, one of the members of our Indivisible group was caught up in a scuffle between ICE agents and protesters. The ICE agents pushed protesters into the street. One protester actually was caught between the wheels of a moving truck. And Megan was snatched. You can see that there's a video of it, and beaten and detained by ICE, and they took her into Delaney Hall, and then she was released several hours later without charges.
This is a protest?
Yes, from our community, from our group. Peaceful protester. Not doing anything wrong, she just was there protesting. On Saturday, several of us traveled up on Saturday afternoon. The protest at that point was kind of cordoned off. They had us in what was called a First Amendment zone. There were several hundred people present. The protest during the day was joyful. It was very similar to what we've seen at No King's protest. There were signs, there were costumes, a lot of just regular people out protesting to stand in solidarity. Once the evening started, I did see several people kind of messing with the fence in the front of the First Amendment zone. And the Newark Police Department was lined up across the front of the fence. When people started messing with the fence, they aggressively pushed back on the fence, making the area that we were in smaller. So the people I were with at that point, we decided that we were going to leave because the whole atmosphere changed instantly. But before we were able to exit with our entire group, we did luckily have protective gear. We put on respirators and goggles. And before we were able to exit with our group, maybe 40 to 50 state police with riot shields came into the First Amendment zone, knocked down the fence, started flashbanging, tear gassing, rubber bullets, and it was indiscriminate. There was nowhere safe to go. So our group started to move as fast as we could down the street. We got to a point where we thought we were safe and we would be able to try to get everybody together. But unfortunately, they started pushing the protest down the street and tear gassing the protesters as they were trying to get away from the protest. When we were walking down the street, we saw more riot shields, more state police, and horses. I don't know what a war zone looks like. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I have heard about things like this happening, but from where I stood, it was the state police inflicting violence on peaceful protesters for no valid reason. I think it's important to make this very known to people for several reasons. First of all, if they're willing to do this to protesters in the open, in public, being videotaped, God only knows what they're doing inside Delaney Hall to the hunger strikers. If they're willing to inflict violence like that on American citizens in broad daylight, they are absolutely doing it inside Delaney Hall, and I think it's something we should all be very, very concerned about. In addition, I felt very gaslighted by Mikey Sherrill's remarks about what was going on at the protest, and to say that she was using the state police to protect protesters is simply untrue. She was using the state police to protect the GEO group and to protect Delaney Hall and to protect ICE agents. So I just think it's really important that we spread the truth about what is going on at Delaney Hall, what is going on in detention centers throughout this country, and the best thing we can do right now is call Governor Sherrill and support the different organizations that are on the ground. When I'm finished speaking, I will write some social media accounts that you can follow that I know are producing accurate information and timely information about what's happening in Delaney Hall. El Pueblo Unido right here in Atlantic City being one of them. And I also just have a few updates on ways that you can help right in our community. So the first one is there is a QR code on here. That QR code is to El Pueblo Unido's Immigrant Justice Fund. So this money goes to support their work and to support the detainees and their families. When you're inside Delaney Hall, it costs $5 to make a phone call. Yes, and one of the ways that the GEO group uses their detainees is they pay them $1 a day for labor. And then after 5 days of labor, they're able to make a phone call. But one of the things that we can do is donate to their commissary fund so that they can make phone calls.
How do we know that it's going to get you?
Because we actually have contact with,
Quick question.
so like members of our group have contact with family members who talk to them. So we do get updates directly from detainees when they talk to their families. Another thing you can do is continue to build community, get your voice out there. We do have a recurring protest that we would love for you to join. And I have some information about that on one of these flyers.
Did you pass those flyers?
Yes, they're out. If you need one, I have extra.
The next one is when? The next protest?
The next recurring protest is Juneteenth. It's at 5 p.m. At the monument. And if that conflicts with anything that you are planning, we will change the time because I need to talk to you about that.
Okay.
Drinks for Democracy. So this is actually our general meeting. Please come out and get involved in Indivisible Atlantic City. We have important elections coming up and we need to elect representatives that stand for our values, and Jeff Andrew is not that. So please join us because we are going to be strategizing and building community and talking about what we need to do to get the right people in office, and while we still have some of the wrong people in office, hold them accountable. So Indivisible was able to meet with our state representatives last week. We met with Assemblywoman Roanne and we met with Senator Vince Palestina because we thought it was very important for them to both understand what the truth was about what happened on the ground there. So they are aware and we're keeping them updated, and we're also going to be looking at things like when our electeds are up for re-election, who they're taking donations from. Because the GEO group is a major funder of campaigns across the country, and it's important that we know if our representatives have any connection to them that could influence the decisions that they make legislatively. And then finally, we have an ongoing food pantry at El Pueblo Unido to support the families of those affected or those that have been detained or deported. It's a small food pantry. We're trying to make this project sustainable, so if you are interested in helping us collect culturally appropriate food items, diapers, or hygiene products, there is an email address there that you can contact. A lot of our local Democratic clubs have been doing this on a regular basis, and it's just one small way that you can get involved. So thank you for your time, and I will put those social media accounts up on the board. And do you have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Commissioner?
I have two.